Hello everyone, I'm Simon Ford of Ford's Gin. Martinis, gin and tonics, Negronis, great classic cocktails is what I'm about, but I also love to hear of great recipes from great bartenders from around the world, which is why we've partnered with Beyond the Drink for this season. Cheers.
Well, you just heard from the man himself, Simon Ford, and this season of Beyond the Drink is brought to you by our friends at Ford's Gin. I'm Cappy, and in this series, we're going to hear from some of the best bartenders in the country as they share the stories and recipes behind their favorite drinks. Beyond the Drink is a spin-off of Beyond the Plate, our podcast that sits down with the world's culinary elite to explore their journey into the food industry and the social impact they have made in their communities. We invite you to check out this season of Beyond the Plate, where we're featuring some of the greatest restaurant and hospitality duos. And if you're new to Beyond the Drink, welcome. If you listened before, we're so glad you're back. We hope this episode inspires you to create a delicious cocktail or, like the bartenders we feature, make a difference in your community. To get the cocktail recipe we discussed in this episode, check out the episode notes in your podcast player or go to beyondtheplatepodcast.com. One more thing, we have some awesome Beyond the Plate merch. You can find the link in your podcast player or go to our website, beyondtheplatepodcast.com. Head on over and check out our hats, tees, hoodies, and more. Again, that's beyondtheplatepodcast.com. Enjoy this week's episode. Joining us today, or tomorrow, is a bartender considered to be one of Australia's most influential bar figures. He is behind Australia's most famous cocktail bar and has racked up many awards, including the Art of Hospitality Award as part of the World's 50 Best Bars 2020, Top 50 Bars in the World in 2019, 2020, 2021, and 2022, and named the best bar in Australasia at the World's 50 Best Bars in all 4 years. You can find more on him in the episode notes and follow him on Instagram at Cato17. Please enjoy this episode as we go beyond the drink with Stefano Catino. Thank you for being here, Stefano.
Thank you for having me, Andrew.
Good to have you. We start every episode with an audio test with all of our guests. And why don't we start with you? We'll have you name 3 ingredients you love to use with gin.
Olives, more gin, and vermouth.
Olives, more gin, and vermouth. I love it. You sound great. Let's go. Stefano, hospitality was ingrained in you at a young age in Italy. How do you describe Italian hospitality?
I was thinking about that the other day, and I came to the conclusion that actually I grew up inside the restaurant. I grew up in my dad's restaurant. I sleep on the table when my dad had late night. You know, we didn't have grandparents. My grandparents died when I was younger. So I was breathing hospitality. And I just realized that later. I think I'm pretty good at it, but how come, no? And then I came to the conclusion. I grew up in a restaurant. I saw hospitality all day around me because, it was a survival for us, It wasn't like now. You open a restaurant in Italy and you have to take care of social media. All you had to do was open in the door, make good food, and be nice to your guests. There was no playlist. There was no music. It was a natural act of surviving. And if you were good at cooking, you open a restaurant and you hope that people keep coming back to your restaurant. So my dad wasn't a businessman. He was definitely not one of those. And I think that's what is Italian hospitality. It is a survival mechanism. And he's a sort of income for a family.
Interesting. How would you describe young Stefano?
I like him. It was cool. He was very curious.
Curious, okay.
Very curious. I remember I grew up in Cinque Terre, in the Italia Riviera, and I was working at a young age. The first time I was behind the bar, I was 14 years old, and I had all these American tourists, Australian tourists, and I would spend night after night sitting with them, not probably understanding any word they're saying, and just laughing when everybody was laughing and make my 2-sentence joke when I had an opportunity. But I felt like this need of being surrounded with people and talk and learn new things. So that was young Stefano. I was very curious and I wanted to understand more. I was always wanted to know more about the world. So that's, what brought me to Australia.
My next question is what took you to Australia? But I gotta say this because it's infectious right now to the listener. I asked him that question and Stefano kind of had this ear-to-ear grin, like a smile, like the kid in him was coming out. Like he said, I like him. And it made me happy. It made me smile when you kind of lit up like that to talk about young Stefano. That was great. So anyhow, I digress. What took you to Australia?
It's funny. It was a combination of things. I actually, Naron Young, the guy who started Dante and blah, blah, he came as a tourist to my little town, Cinque Terre, while he was the editor of Bartender magazine. And he sat in my bar and he started to open Bartender magazine in front of me from Australia. And we started to make cocktails together and we spent like a beautiful weekend in Cinque Terre. And then I say, look, this summer when the season is finished, I would like to come and see you in Australia. I say, please do. So I came here and he introduced me to all these other bartenders who were around. There was Jason Crowley, who just arrived from England. There was Marco Faraone, another Italian man who we became good friends with, Mikey Enright. There was a big scene in Australia around 2006, 2007. There was a lot of people moved from London, from the Atlantic Room. For me, it was like this place where I wanted to be to learn. And thanks to this introduction that I have from Naron, Naron then moved to America, to New York. And the year he moved there, I moved to Australia, but I already had a good intro. And I ended up staying here. I wanted to learn more about cocktail because I knew a lot, I think, about hospitality from Italy. But I didn't know more about cocktail and I wanted to learn. So I decided to make Australia my home. So this is the kind of recap.
I know you have multiple establishments, but can you set the scene for us? Like your accolades they're incredible for yourself, for the bar, but I would like you to set the scene for us as we walk through the doors of your bar. And if you want to use 5 senses, what are we seeing? What are we smelling, hearing, touching, all the things?
The idea of maybe Sammy is to have a hotel bar without a hotel. So, because there was not good hotel bar in Australia when I moved here. So the first thing that you see is a hotel trolley parked outside this bar. And sometimes it's used as a DJ desk, which is parked inside the bar when our Mr. Rock and Roller, a man in his late 50s, sleek with very Frank Sinatra haircut, plays the DJ deck. So that's probably on a Friday for aperitivo, that's the first thing you see is either the hotel trolley parked outside or parked inside at the door with a beautiful man behind it playing Frank Sinatra and all the tracks. The tingling glasses, the beautiful bartender with a pink jacket and the red flower on the jacket. That's your set scene. We want to transport you to a busy hotel lobby where people having a cocktail before checking in, before going for dinner. So that's the scene that we wanted to set on people's mind. And then sometimes we have little act that we do throughout the evening because I believe that a bar should be, you can go to any bar, but if you come to one of my bar, I always tell to my bartender and my staff, I want something to happen. I want people to remember. I want something to happen. I don't know what it is. Not like to be in a flash mob, but kind of.
Yeah, I get it. What must we taste at your bar?
Okay, in my bar, there is definitely one of the things that we do from day one is our little mini martinis, which is a selection of mini martini that we do. We were the first one in Australia. It was clearly not my idea because there is many beautiful establishments that do that in the world. I took my inspiration from Bar Cipriani in Venice, where they invented the Bellini. They have these mini glasses where you can have one sip martini, and I thought that's such a cool idea. I wanted to bring it to Australia. So that's our happy hour every day. It's like a little mini martini hour. They became very popular and I see them now more and more around the world. And then I tell people, you should always have a classic and you should always have a signature drink. This is my belief. And that's what I do when I go to some other bars. It's like to taste the water and to experience.
Awesome. Well, I'm really excited to learn more about this cocktail that I believe is currently on your menu. Can you tell us about it?
So our new cocktail list is called the Mirage because basically we asked our bar team to come up with their Mirage moment. A Mirage moment is when something unexpected happens when you're expecting something. There it could be many. It's like finding water in the desert. When you see that water in the desert, but it's not there, but because you're so thirsty, that's your Mirage moment, okay? So one of the guy who comes from my actually own area in Italy, he came up with this beautiful cocktail, which has forest gin, a bit of white vermouth, and it's clarified through peach yogurt, but then we put a little cream soda and we call it the raspberry cloud on top of sitting on top of the house, which is like a sponge, like a sponge air that sits right on top of the glass. No, he brought me this drink. I tried it. This drink was delicious. And he goes, what's your Mirage moment? And he goes, is this effect that happens in the sky after it stops to rain? The cloud have this pink color. And I say, but what's this effect called? And it's called the Polar Stratospheric Cloud. But I want to call the cocktail Johnny. And I say, you're not calling the cocktail Johnny. We're calling the cocktail the Polar Stratospheric Cloud because it's such a cool name. So this is the drink that I've presented to you today, and I love the fact I'm bad. I micromanage my team. I go into this meeting and I should shut up, but I go like, man, you have such a good drink, it's so beautiful. The ingredients work. You had a good name, and now I'm put my feet down and say, we're naming this drink the Polar Stratospheric Cloud. It's funny because now it's the best-selling drink in the menu. And I always tell to Luca, which is the bartender who created it, that is thanks to my name, not thanks to his delicious drink, which is not true, of course.
I love that. That sounds so good. I have a couple questions. You mentioned, I think you referred to it as a theme of the Mirage moment. Is that something that you incorporate into your menus often? You switch up those themes, or was this a one-off occasion?
Yeah, we switch up the theme. The first theme was because we opened the Maybe Sammy was based on this beautiful story about this poster that I found. I'm a big fan of Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra. So the whole bar idea was based on a poster from the 1950s that used to say, from the Saint Casino, they used to say, Saint Casino, Dean Martin, maybe Frank, maybe Sammy. And was to give basically on any given night that you would go to the set, you might witness Justin Martin or possibly the biggest act in Las Vegas during the 1960s, which would have brought people to the casinos and gamblers. And of course, it was a form of entertaining. And I thought that was very cool to use that word. I wouldn't call my bar the Dean, but I would like to say I love that little maybe Frank and maybe Sammy. And anyone, if you Google that, you will appear this beautiful picture of this casino in black and white with the red pack. But a lot of people thought, you use the red pack, they were womanizer, they were this, they were that. And in fact, I researched a bit more. And one of the reasons why, I'm fond of those music and I like those. But one of the reasons why I use the red pack is because when I read a bit more about the story, like they were a lot making fun of themselves and of who they were. One guy was Jewish, one was Italian, one was change his religion. But they were always trying to, Frank Sinatra was one of the first person who put his feet down to basically have African-American people performing and sleeping in the same venue in the States. They were promoting a few good things. And mainly they were making fun of themselves rather than make fun of the audience, which is something that I usually apply in my bar. I think if behind the bar we have fun with each other and joke with each other, people, by looking at you having fun, they actually have fun themselves. To go back to your question, the first cocktail list was based on all the casino of Las Vegas, of the strip of the 1960s. And then we changed it and we made an homage. The second menu was a riff on that. And then we changed completely the theme and we pay an homage to all the women in the history of the world that had an impact in show business. And then this year we went more deep. We went to this creative idea of using this Mirage moment, a moment in your life rather than someone or a person.
It's really interesting. How often do you do that? Like once a year or more or less?
Usually a year or after a good run. If I have a good run, or I think your best idea come under stress. So when you stress your brain, so you either go in a good way, you either go for a run or you do a big activity and then your brain start to think, or you get drunk with your friend and your brain start to think. And when I'm with my team, with Paolo, Sara, my co-worker, Hunter, we talk a lot. And when we have a good idea, we kind of nurture it. And then we say, okay, let's wait for maybe January and let's work on this. But usually yearly. Yeah, I would say yearly.
That's really cool. Well, funny enough, while you did go off on that tangent and saying how you don't take yourself too seriously and you're having fun, it's actually a perfect segue because I know earlier, you talked a little bit about Italian hospitality, but I've also read about your, and I'm using air quotes, listener, quirky hospitality. So can you share with us what is quirky hospitality?
I don't know. I think I've introduced to the bar world these bubbles. I don't know if that's what you're referring to. Well, when I was in Vernazza in the summer, there is a famous holiday, which is August, where all the Italians come to holiday in Italy. Usually some rich people from Milan or from Genova, the biggest city, okay? There was this very rich lady. She's a love a glass of wine. She was a martini drinker. But every day before, in the golden hour when the sunset is happening, she would go up to her room, which was right on the square where all the bars and restaurants are. And she would press play on this bubble machine from the first floor of her window. Then she would go down in the square, order her martini or her glass of wine, sit in the square and watch the world go by. Now, when these bubbles of soap bubble come to the square, you can imagine all the tourists, the kids running around. She was loving it, no? And I always have that memory, no? So one night I'm maybe Sammy, and it's like the first few weeks when we opened, and behind the bar I have all these amazing bartenders from the Artisan Bar, from the Savoy, They just moved to Australia and they know what to do. They hold the bottle properly. They have the moves and they get a lot of attention, no? And here I am, the owner, the guy opened the place. That's a lot of my ideas in there, a lot of my intel. And I goes like, I want attention too. What gotta do, no? So I was shopping with my little girl, my first daughter. I was in a toy shop and I found a bubble machine and I brought it to the bar. So when the night the bar was full of people, I took this bubble machine and I went behind the bar and I started to spray the bubbles, no? To the surprise of everyone was so happy. They loved the bubble. And that's the story I like to say. I brought the bubble because it was my way to be noticed. Because as a bartender, you're kind of a failed person who would like to be in movies or TV and I couldn't. So I wanted my attention share. And the bubble became a part of Maybe Sammy. And then when we started to do the pop-up around the world, I would always bring a bubble gun because my skill behind the bar were not that good. You know, I couldn't do throwing or steering properly. And the bubble was like my signature. And it became the signature of Maybe Sammy. So I think that's what people refer to quirky hospitality in a way, was just to add a bit of fun and games behind the bar. After that, we started to buy a lot of toys because we realized that a lot of the bartenders were shy sometimes to talk to customer. And sometimes the customer don't want to talk to you, no? So we went to this store, we bought a couple of like wooden flamingos and parrots and like elegant things, no? But when somebody would arrive at the bar, we just maybe sit in front of them like a flamingo and a parrot or a tropical bird in form of a statue. And the customer would say, what it is? I said, this is just Nando. He's a parrot. He's lost. You can talk to him if you don't want to talk to me, no? But it was a way to spark the conversation and to make the customer feel at ease and the bartender feel at ease. And I guess this is quirkiness in the bar, but it's also a smart way to connect two people together at the bar because the other guy sees this guy with a toy and he now starts to say, oh, what is that? The bartender just gave it to me. Where are you from? I'm from Paris. I'm from London. What are you doing? So when a bartender is sitting behind is standing in the bar and two customers talk to each other, that's job done because you can still focus on making drinks because you are busy, while the guests will take care of each other and hopefully they will remember the night or they become friends or they go for dinner together. I don't know. Or maybe they don't. But that was a good, for me, that was a good organism to create. And I use toy and quirkiness to make that happen.
That's so cool. It's so interesting. You're almost like knocking down this like barrier to the guest in a way, like putting him at a little more ease. I feel like you have to be pretty good at like reading your customer in a way.
Yeah, They all are. Like, I would say, do you teach your staff to do this? Do they dance behind the bar because you make them to? So I don't tell nobody what to do. I think it's an organism. It's their instinct. They're following their instinct. My job as the owner or the boss is to make people feel at ease and give them the tools to perform. I've been a bartender. I've been working for someone, and all I wanted is the tools to be able to do my job properly. So if you give your staff all these tools, their main job is to make people feel good. And sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. I always like to say that you're only as good as the last guest you serve at your own bar. So it can be good every night. But there is some night I walk out of there and I go like, you know what? Tonight, this was the best bar in Australasia. Or some night he goes like, guys, tonight we suck. The pub down the road did much better than us. But that's what I believe, I would be stupid to say, oh, yeah, we are the best. No, we're not the best. We are only as good as is how we perform on that night or that week. Or it's amazing.
All right, let's have a little more fun with the speed round. First thing that comes to mind. Number 1, name the cocktail that inspired you to get behind the bar.
The porn star martini.
What pisses you off behind the bar?
Laziness.
What makes you happy behind the bar?
Happiness.
Last one. The one gin-based cocktail everyone needs to try.
Martini.
All right, Stefano, you just said this. It's funny because I came across it too. I had it written down from you. You're only as good as the last guest who leaves your bar. You've also said everything you do is based on the guest experience. When was the last time that you experienced great hospitality outside of one of your bars?
Okay. One time, a few times I experienced great hospitality. A Katana Kitten, the first time I went, I actually, with Maza, I cried because everybody told me about Maza and how good he was. And he was like, they say, you know what, you're good, but Maza's good. I said, okay, let's check this Maza out. So I went there and I cried. I think he did extra for me, but I
Did
cried.
you have your Chiso gin and tonic?
Yeah, like this amount of hospitality. I learned a lot from Maza because he was a quirky hospitality too. Like he likes to make games and jokes. And I was like I come to you, I do it once and I leave, and you won't see me for the rest of the night. And Masa was constantly there, boom, and the cake, and throwing the bottle, and the fire, and dress like a panda, and I don't know what, and the balloon, and give you vitamin before you leave the bar, and bring you water. So that sort, but he wasn't forced because he does it in such a natural way because he wants to. So that was definitely one of my favorite hospitality experience. When I go, I always say in Greece as well, from when I go to the guys from the Clumsy and Line, I think they have something special there. I always learn a lot there. Again, it's not aggressive. You can tell that they do hospitality because they love to take care of people. They make you feel at ease. They make you feel comfortable. They do in their own way, and that's special. And so that's my another very good experience. But also, it depends where you are. I think when you go to the Connaught, I haven't been there in a while. Unfortunately, I haven't been in London for the last 3 years. When you went to the Connaught and you have a martini from Agostino or Giorgio, and it's pure class, and you feel like you're in this room, that's pure hospitality. But you don't expect anything less. So you always expect excellence from this type of people. The other thing we have to say is that people know I am. So sometimes maybe they treat me differently. So I cannot say that this experience will be for everybody. But definitely for me, these three places in the world, New York, London, and Greece, Athens, was some of the places that inspire me the most to be even better at what I do. Or if I do anything good, I think these people do better than me, basically.
I got to give a shameless plug for the podcast listener. Masa was on this podcast a couple seasons ago, so that was a fun episode. You should check that out. He was talking about how he makes his martini at home with a little pinch of salt, and he shakes it in a plastic Tupperware container. And then Ago and Giorgio were on the podcast a couple weeks ago. So if you scroll back, you'll see those two guys. It's fun to talk to.
Good then.
Yeah. So when it comes to service and hospitality, are there one or two things that are like a must for you, like things that are always implemented in all of your spots, like non-negotiable?
Yeah, like probably like many bar operator, I have a brain problem with lighting and music and temperature. Probably those are three things like drive me insane. And I have a huge disorder on how people cut fruits as a garnish. Big disorder. My business partner, Vince, his mom, she's from Calabria, so they've been it's his second generation. And one day we did a spritz event, and to do me a favor, because it was early in the morning, I think she cut a bucket of orange for me for garnishes. A bucket, like maybe more than a bucket, I don't know, in America, like a lot. And just to garnish the spritz, no? And I arrived to the site, and it was just a pop-up in a park, but we were just starting the Maybe company, and I had her. And I didn't tell her, but I threw them all away and I recut them all by hand myself. Because I say, I can't have our spritz or our cocktail going out with a shit garnish. So that's my pet peeve. I have a disorder for that. But I try. I don't see, I go around my bar, it's the first thing I check, always check the glasses. But, now we're expanding, so it's harder to keep it up. But, it's one of them.
Oh, yeah. I love it. All right, Stefano, I want to talk for a couple of minutes about social impact and giving back. Our listeners Beyond the Plate and Beyond the Drink know the podcast celebrates the work that chefs and restaurateurs and bartenders do to give back to their communities. And sometimes it's with a specific organization, or sometimes it's with a cause, sometimes it's personal, sometimes it's through the bar or restaurant. So I definitely want to give you a moment to shed some light on a cause or organization, but I also need to make light of the fact that for everyone listening, each year, the Bartender Magazine Australian Bar Awards, an individual is recognized with the award for outstanding contribution. And it pays tribute to someone who's made a difference in the bar industry through their passion and dedication, and who has a positive effect on the industry. And Stefano won this award in 2023. So cheers to you. I am curious what your thoughts are on like what they mean to you, awards and accolades. Actually, before we get into that social impact, I'm curious.
Yeah, look, at the beginning, they used to make me upset because I didn't win any. I always wanted to, like, you prove a point. Like, if you're working so hard in this industry and you achieve something, like, I don't know, I remember we won Best Restaurant Bar of the Year, or the first time I was nominated in a top 10 at Tails. They mean a lot to me. It's like a starting point. I say, look, I've worked so hard, I got there, but it's not, I'm finished now, that's enough. They were always like, okay, we are there. I can now attract better people working for me. And with these better people on board, I can go to the next project and do something better. So that's what they meant to me. I don't live for them. I don't call people to give me votes. I never done stuff like that, but I'm happy to receive them. And I think they help my business. When we won the 50 best bar, my business went from making 2 to make 4. So I never say, no, awards are bad. But they can be bad if you don't leave them with joy and if you don't grow from them. You win an award. You just mentioned we won 4 years in a row, but every year we are a better version of ourselves. And I thought the first year we were pretty good, and now I'm not even in maybe semi, and they're getting better review, and the food is better, and the staff is better, and the team is better. And I've always let the new team come up. I've never said, oh no, this is mine, this is me. I never wanted to shine by myself. We got an international traveler. I always send everyone around the world. I was never the center focus of attention. I didn't want to be. And it's important. It's important because, you're no one without your team. No one. I'm not a single man sport. Even in single sport now, look at the tennis player. They win this tennis at Wimbledon and they say, thanks to my team. The team wasn't playing. You were playing, buddy. But, this is what I believe in as well. Like, you need a team and you need to ally them. And if they win awards, you get a better team. But also they need to, I think I've explained enough.
Okay. Is there an organization or cause you'd like to highlight?
Yes. So recently, basically, we merged our company with a public group, which is another emerging company in Australia. And they have a charity that is called Do Good. We just had our first event last week. I was actually pulling up the website where basically we have volunteer brands and we have a charity last week. All the people with the kids, like, myself, they went all cooking in this kitchen and give it back to the family who are in need. And next week, there is another event helping women that had problem in their household. And the foundation is called Do Good. Megan, which is a partner of John, the owner of Public Group, started it. She really wanted to give back to the community because she says, yes, we have bars, which are really affecting communities because this is where people go and talk and their problem. They get drunk, they get happy, they get sad, but we also need to help the community for real. So this is something that is just starting and I'm proud to start to be part of it more and more. And that's one of them. Plus, there is a lot of private cause that sometimes get my attention, and I personally do it a bit here and there, but that's nothing I have to share. As you know, you're a father. When there is something affecting kids this day, I get very touched. So if I can put $10 there, $50 a year, I always try. It's important.
That's great. Thanks for sharing all that. Okay, so you're the second Italian bartender in a row that is not in Italy. As I mentioned, we recently had Ago and Giorgio from the Connaught in London. You're in Australia. Our first bartender in Australia. So as we said earlier, it's our tomorrow and your yesterday. Question, who makes a better martini, you or Ago? No, I'm just kidding.
Ago. Ago, easy. I make a better joke. You can ask him.
It's funny. All right, Stefano, after a long day at work, you get home. What drink are you making for yourself?
I have to be very honest. I don't drink when I'm home because I have so many bars and I don't need another excuse to make a drink myself at home.
Sure.
So that's what I have to say. When I'm at home, I don't drink. I can show you my house. You might see some wine. I only cook. See, this is my disability with my problem with guests. If you come in here, I will make you a Negroni from one of our bottle cocktail that we have. We have a little bottle cocktail line, so I always have my Negronis, Jasmine Negroni. But if I'm by myself, I don't drink. I don't need another excuse to drink, unfortunately.
Jasmine Negroni sounds delicious. Do you cook a lot at home?
Yeah. My wife cooks more than me, but I cook. I love to. If I have guests, I love to cook. My dad was a chef, so I like to cook my little Italian stuff. But we love to cook.
Awesome. I love it. Stefano, thanks for your time. And thank your little 2-year-old for hanging tight, watching some good cartoons. I really enjoyed speaking with you. I love everything you said, and I'm very grateful for the whole bartending industry. Most of these conversations are, US-based bartenders. We've expanded a little more internationally, but this community, while so large around the world, is just so tight. And I really appreciate that. It's pretty awesome to see.
Thank you very much for having me on this, and I really had a lot of fun. I could talk for the next 2 hours, as you probably understood, but...
Same. Thanks, buddy.
Have a good night, America.
To get the recipe from this episode, check out the episode notes in your podcast player or go to beyondtheplatepodcast.com. This episode is produced by myself, along with Ian Cohen, Joel Yetton, and Sean Petrosian. Find me and keep up to date with this podcast across all social media platforms at On Cappy's Plate, or go to beyondtheplatepodcast.com. Beyond the Plate is on all the socials at BT Plate Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast on your listening site of choice. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Drink, a production of Beyond the Plate. I'm Cappy.